Tick Tock.
Battle for Dream Island is a home to a number of characters, such as Leafy, Fiery, Winner, Lollipop, Fries, Puffball, and many others. They each have their own fanbase, as well as their own hate base. So, I decided to rank 77 different characters from the show, going from number 77 all the way to number 1. This list will include all characters that have competed and are currently competing, as well as some miscellaneous ones, such as the speaker boxes, the hosts, Evil Leafy, and non-existy. Recommended characters, the other Algebralians, and failed debuters are not on this list. Before I begin, I just want to state that this is my own opinion. This is how I feel about each character on here. You are free to put your favorites or least favorites in the comments if you please, but do not attack me or others for their own opinion. It isn't yours to begin with. With that out of the way, let's begin the ranking with... Flower's speaker box is a speaker box that belongs to Flower. She hosts in BFDI 22 and dies in BFDI 23. Good. I can't stand to hear her at all. I never liked the BFDI version of Flower, and the speaker box is even worse than her. She hates everyone but Flower and sometimes goes to the point of rigging contests so that Flower can win, such as poisoning Fiery's cake. I'm glad she died and never returned. She's just awful. Phew, already going strong with the first controversial one, huh? Look, I get it. It's Rocky. Look at him, he's adorable. Yeah, I don't care. Being cute is not a valid reason for a character to be good. He is straight up just a one-trick pony. He does nothing but barf all the time. I did like him during the early episodes of BFDI, but they just ruined him midway into that season. He's gone from being pretty charming and funny to just barf. That's all he is, a barf machine. He's also pretty inconsistent with that as well. Some moments his barf is just seen as gross, then other times it acts as acid. What is this, man? Robati is a character I never liked to begin with, ever since he debuted in BFB. Robati is what you would call a joke character, basically something that isn't really an object. Unless you do count him as one, then more power to you. I never found him interesting at all. He just exists. While the Morse code thing is cool, there's no point to it since like 0.01% of people who watch the show are even going to know what he said, let alone trying to translate it. He just sucks, that's it. Nothing more. As a quote from book, Leafy wannabe, what a loser. And I couldn't agree more. While Evil Leafy is not an exact copy of Leafy, far from it, she still doesn't hold anything to the table. I don't see a point to her. There were so many things that looked like they wanted to do with her, but since BFDIA was canned and IDFB hasn't even continued, what's the point of her? She doesn't even show up at all in BFB or TPOT. Did they just forget that she exists? I would have forgotten about her too. She doesn't provide anything. Ooh, she's red, has realistic eyes, teleports and eats people. So creepy. Give me a break. Ugh, I just really don't like Purple Face. He just comes off as a forced character that didn't really have any reason to exist, other than causing conflict in like 2 episodes. I heard that he was considered to be a contestant instead, and I find that more interesting than whatever he did in post-split BFB. The only cool thing he had was his little rivalry with Yellowface, but even then they stopped showing that. He was also just flat out unlikable in BFB 29. I don't care if Flower deserved it or not. He was just so randomly rude to her in that episode. He's honestly just annoying. Whoa, hey, let me explain myself. Yes, I know that Black Hole is a fan favorite. I just have one question. Why? I really don't get why people like him so much, and even then, I don't think I want to know why. What purpose does Black Hole have? Preventing death? He's a literal black hole! Not to mention that he's pretty much the sole reason why Death Pact again lost in TPOT 4. I don't care if that's the point of the team. I feel like it's been dragged on for too long. He's just so bland. If the point of preventing death is to lose on purpose, then you lost me. His concept is cool, but nothing is done with it. They really just couldn't drop the 8 gag, huh? She went from being a pretty decent character before BFB 8 to just being annoying. That was Saw's main problem, the 8 gag. It lasted far too long and didn't have any reason to keep going. Like, what was the end goal of it? Just for a quick joke? And also, don't comment down below saying you could have just ignored it. How could you have possibly ignored it when every time she was on screen, she said the gag?
At least 8! I don't hate this great traits! I rate it a straight 8 out of 8! Hey, we're teammates! Great!
I will say, I don't really think she deserves going in Teapot 4, but at least that entire bit is gone. Her design is nice, but that's all I can really say. Bracelety is one of the few characters that I really feel like could have been good if given the chance. Sadly, that didn't happen. She kind of falls under the same boat as Rocky, being a one-trick pony, but at least it makes sense? Rocky's whole barf gag just kind of appeared out of nowhere, but at least Bracelety in the past as an RC was always shown to be idolizing Ice Cube. Being loud and hyperactive isn't really a bad thing, but the way it was done was pretty poor. At least she does what she believes in, idolizing Ice Cube. Sorry bud, nostalgia won't get you anywhere with me. To me, Bombi was alright in BFDIA. He was at least interesting to see interact with the other contestants. In BFB, he kinda just exists. There's nothing I can really recall what he did throughout BFB. Teapot doesn't do him any better, as almost every episode he's just blown up, somewhere at the start or in the middle of the episode. The banana and cake bit is fine I suppose, but it looks like they dropped that in Teapot, which I'm fine with. I don't know, Bombi's just in a weird spot for me. Ha! You think Teapot 5 would get you any higher? Nope. Just because Robot Flower did something in Teapot 5 does not excuse her from the amount of time where she just flat out did nothing. Teapot 2 does not count as she didn't even get that right, so why bring it up? At least in terms of comparing to the actual Flower, she's semi better than her BFDI counterpart, but that's still not saying much. If they keep doing what they did with her like in Teapot 5, then maybe she'll place higher. For now, that isn't enough. Same story as Robot Flower. You doing something in Teapot 5 is not enough. You are barely better than her only given that your concept is interesting. The callback to older episodes to use as words is cool, but sometimes drags on for too long. Funny thing is, in older seasons, he does have some kind of Scottish robot voice, but was ditched for the callback voice. Teapot 5 has the voice back, so at least there's that. Again, if they keep this up with TV, he may place higher, but that isn't enough right now. You don't get away scot-free from the amount of nothing that you did. Nickel to me feels like a broken record. In BFDIA, he was seen as a pessimist, meaning that he mainly sees the worst in things. Even with this, he was a very fun character. In BFB, they ditched that completely and changed his personality to just being an insanely erratic and nonsensical person. This got old really fast for me, and it doesn't seem like that had any reason to exist. At least in Teapot, Nickel is much more toned down but may sometimes still be a bit erratic, which I feel like is a perfect balance for him. Even with saying that, I still find him pretty bland. He doesn't do anything on his team that much. Price tag is an interesting character concept. Too bad that they're just Nearly 2.0, which is not saying much at all. Price tag pretty much just stole what Nearly was, being mischievous and cheeky, and it just feels like they did Nearly, especially since she was eliminated in Teapot 5. Their friendship was alright, but again, Price tag is just Nearly all over again. The way they use their emotions through emoticons in their face is pretty cool, but that's all Price tag has going for them. I just see them as a more uninteresting Nearly. Puffball Speaker Box is a weird one. She did host in BFDIA, which was cool. She does match Puffball to a degree. Too bad that she still didn't do much since she was killed off after only 2 episodes. There isn't really much I can say about Puffball Speaker Box. She's just there and kind of forgotten about other than a few flashbacks. She's okay, I guess? Oh god, where do I even begin with Tennis Ball? I will admit, I did like Tennis Ball in BFDI and BFDIA. In BFB, he was alright to a degree, but my god with Teapot lately, he just turned into a full-on simp. I don't really get what they're trying to do with him. He's just constantly seen being near golf ball no matter what is going on. I get it, they're friends. But this? This doesn't seem like friendship from what Tennis Ball is doing. Teapot 5 was honestly the final straw, which is why he's ranked pretty low on my list. I get that you want to protect your friend, even though Golf Ball was the one that started it with Pen. Whatever. Something needs to change about Tennis Ball because this just isn't working. Pin falls into the same issue as Tennis Ball. Not the simping, but a different word. Derailed. Pin has gotten severely derailed in Teapot, and I don't understand why. She was perfectly fine in the earlier seasons. I found her alright in BFB also. Teapot though? She just went off the rails. She went from being a pretty careful and caring person to just being overall mean and bossy like her BFDI counterpart. But at least that was funny. This isn't. The entire cheating arc is just really stupid and has no reason to even exist. Even Kara at one point was getting annoyed about what Pin was doing, which really says something.
It still feels like cheating again. I don't want this to
Stop!
be a pattern.
Stop
guys.
complaining about cheating, Pin!
Actually doing the restaurant.
Listen to Katie.
On the table.
So hopefully in future episodes they tone it down or just revert back to what she was in BFB. I'm just gonna get this out of the way now. I don't like Yellowface all that much. His voice is annoying, he's loud, and is just easily persuaded by anything. The only thing I can give him is his more darker side that sadly isn't brought up as much anymore. He hates people that oppose his ads or products, like Lollipop or Purpleface. Purpleface is the biggest one since Yellowface trapped him in that cage for over 8 years, with no plan of letting him out. I feel like if they explored that more darker side of him, he would be a decent character for me, but he isn't, so he's ranked low. Spongy just exists for me. He isn't really that bad, but I don't like him regardless. I'm not a fan of him as he just kinda sits around most of the time. No, I'm not trying to make a fat joke. There isn't a moment of him I can recall where he mattered in contests other than the basket lobes way back in BFDI. I'm not going to give him flack for what he did in BFE 15 as I feel like that was understandable. Wouldn't you also be mad at people that treated you badly? Although him being mad at Barfbag kinda isn't, so he's not that likable to me. 8-Ball falls under the same problem as Saw, his gag that got annoying really quick. His entire personality for the few episodes was that he keeps saying that he doesn't have a favorite number. Even when he was eliminated in BFB 8, he still brought it up. Why was this necessary to have? The only thing I'll give him is that his little rivalry with Golf Ball was pretty funny, but at the same time he almost caused his team to lose twice, so there's that. He's still pretty alright, but the gag didn't help. Also, he was a little bit bland. X is a dim-witted person. What else is there? Sure, he's nicer than 4 in some aspects, but he's also a bit annoying at times. X is seen being too soft sometimes, and he's always seemed to be getting scared as well, such as 4 threatening to screech him, Snowball threatening him and crying when 4 said no one noticed he was gone. The episode A Taste of Space doesn't help either. He was pretty annoying and bratty in that episode and that didn't do him any favors. He is still better than a few I've gone through so far, but that still isn't saying much. I know to some, Foldy is a character that has untapped potential, and I agree with that. Sadly, that isn't going to place her high on my list. Foldy is an example of a character where she isn't exactly bad, but the writers did nothing with her so she's seen as bad. Although yes, her entire bit in BFB 10 about wanting to avenge Stapy was pretty stupid, since Flower had nothing to do with that, and it was Match that caused the elimination to happen. Even when she was eliminated in TPOT 3, she showed no emotion towards anyone that liked her, with the biggest one being Marker. Was that friendship all for nothing? Pi honestly just bores me. There is one thing I do like about her, and that's her sassy attitude towards Golf Ball. Honestly, if she wasn't eliminated in Teapot 2, I feel like her dynamic with Golf Ball would have really let her shine, but she was still pretty forgettable in most cases. While her relaxed nature is nice, that kinda made her bland at the same time, since she doesn't seem to offer much. She was decent throughout BFB, but even with saying that, I don't remember much at all on what she did. She's smart, but that isn't going to help her here. Look, Marker is just... I don't know, he's Marker. His voice is kind of annoying, but I can understand giving him that kind of voice. I never found the toss the dirt bit funny to me. He hardly does anything noticeable in BFB, despite being an idiot most of the time, like when he had no idea how to play rock paper scissors. Really? His little devious bit in Teapot 1 is funny, and he is somewhat improved in Teapot 5. However, like with TV and Robot Flower, being good in one episode does not make you good overall in my eyes. And no, find the markers and being on the news does not give you any bonus points. I'm just gonna say it right now, Cloudy was robbed pretty early on. His entire collection bit was somewhat interesting, but for the most part they don't really pay any minds to that other than a few episodes. My favorite thing about Cloudy was his friendship dynamic with Balloony. That was probably the best part about his character. Since he went to Teapot and Balloony stayed in BFB, he just became forgettable really easily. He wasn't given much screen time during Teapots 1 through 3 and was limited in Teapot 4, losing to Icy, who at the time was hated because she kept reusing lines. There's really not much to him other than the friendship, sadly. Probably regarded as one of the most hated characters in BFDI, I don't exactly hate him all that much. Sure, he's a bit insufferable and ruined a good amount of characters for a while during pre-split. I still kind of enjoy his character. He's seen being rather nice and caring of his teammates and fans, and is also rather helpful in some challenges. Although that doesn't excuse the ego problem that he has. Anyone that was fans of him would only follow him and nobody else, and Loser knew this. This became apparent when he's eliminated, as when the fame gets to his head and assumes everyone voted for him to be safe, he ends up speechless since he didn't expect that to happen. I do feel like he's a bit overhated, but I can understand why.
Leave me alone!
Grassy right now is getting tons of hate for the large amount of save votes he's been getting recently, as all he says is,
I'm Grassy!
and nothing else. The only reason I'm even placing him above Loser is that Grassy used to be my second favorite. I loved his character and how charming he was, especially since at times he would stand up for himself during BFB, like with Golfo and Grassy asked Blocky that he wanted more respect. If they kept that side of him for Teapot, he would still be top 3, but he isn't anymore. Him in Teapots 4 and 5 was just him doing a bunch of nothing, and I started seeing him as bland, so he massively dropped on my list. He also doesn't help as much anymore as he used to, but even then in BFB he kept risking his team to be eliminated, but at least he tries. I guess his friendship to basketball is nice, but that's about it. Fiery Speakerbox is an interesting case of a host. He wasn't that bad of a host during BFDI, it was honestly a lot better in BFDIA. It's too bad his hosting came to an abrupt end. He straight up vanished after BFDIA 5E, with him not showing up in IDFB, and shows up in BFB but being destroyed as revenge for what they did to Donut. There's nothing else to him, but he's at least better than Flower and Puffball Speakerbox, I suppose. Stapy is really just a character that's all over the place. He's calm and friendly, but sometimes gets angry. He's also just lazy and doesn't bother helping in challenges unless asked or sees an opportunity, which is far in between. His sass isn't really that good either. At least he does try and win for his team. I'm not going to give him flack for his cheating in BFB8 since, well, it's a competition. I feel like you would do anything to try and win, right? Even if it's wrong. He does seem like a fun character to have a chat with, I'll say that. Although, stop using your stapler instincts as an excuse. Please? Penso is a weird case in terms of her relationships with people. To start, she's fairly nice in BFDI, with some exceptions. She does end up creating Free Smart in BFDIA along with a few of her friends. BFB, however, is where she really took a big nosedive. Even from her just appearing in the first 5 minutes of BFB1, she's already seen as being really bossy and mean towards people, even sometimes towards her own alliance members. She's even manipulative to people like Lightning, although at least he sees later on that what she's doing is wrong. While she is somewhat better when in the exit, that still doesn't excuse her attitude when she wasn't in there. She can say that she is loyal to her team, which is true, but this just wasn't necessary at all. I'll give her the benefit of the doubt as she was at least enjoyable in the earlier seasons. As far as I know, people like Penn simply because he's been around since season 1. Is that all there is to him? I don't really see the appeal towards Penn, but I do see him being a somewhat decent character. His dynamic blocking racer is nice, but he's also a bit stupid at times, being mostly shown in BFB 9. Even so, he is rather helpful and active within his team. In Teapot though, I don't really see him doing all that much, but still gets a decent amount of views. I'm not going to give him pity points for Teapot 5 though, that's not happening. Imagine being that unlikable that your own creator has you as your least favorite. I'm going to be quite frank here, I kinda do like Fiery Jr. He is pretty thoughtful and had a decent friendship with both Bommy and Spongy. Although his attitude towards people he didn't care about was really sour. I find the bit with Marker though funny. A big letdown for him is his arguments with Naily and what he said to his team when he was eliminated. I feel like if he were in Teapot, he would be a better character, but he really needs to work on his social skills. Nayli is honestly just a better price tag, and it was a bit sad to see her go in TPOT 5. Although her puns were pretty bad, which is the only thing I'll agree on Fiery Jr. with. There are a lot of sides to her, such as being boastful, caring, and sometimes even dangerous. Even with saying all that, she just exists. Price tag sadly kind of ruined her for me, but I still like her nonetheless. What? Were you expecting him to be lower? David is also seen as a joke character. Unlike Robati, he's a joke character that's done right, but that doesn't make him a good character, especially with the few gags that he always does on repeat. While yes, his whole "Seriously?
Your score is 0.
Joke is essential to his character, it comes off as annoying later on. I just find it funny how David was the first RC to join BFDI, but then gets eliminated 2 episodes later. He also just doesn't listen to other people and often doesn't help in challenges. In BFB he has changed dynamically, but still comes off as pretty stubborn. Him running away from X was funny though, I'll give him that. This was not done on purpose, I swear. 4 was someone I found really weird, especially with his sudden mood swings from pre-split to post-split. He was pretty good in pre-split. You just saw him as this uncaring, cynical, no mercy type of guy, and I was all for it, and so were a lot of people. Then post-split came and my god, his character changed for the worst. He went from someone that doesn't care about people or how they think, to being a man-child complaining that people don't want to be near him anymore because of what he did to them in previous episodes. Being insecure is fine, but don't act like this now when you've been a monster to everyone beforehand. I still find him better than X, since pre-split and the end of BFE 30 made me semi-like him again. Just wish it didn't go that route. Leafy is what you would call a Mary Sue, which is a term used to define someone, mostly female, who is too perfect and has a lack of flaws. This is shown to be very apparent in BFDI, where basically everyone likes her until the final episode. I would say Leafy was at her best in BFDIA because she was under what people would call the Metal Leafy arc, where she was essentially just hated by everyone, had no one to talk to, and just had tendencies to stab someone whenever provoked. Then BFB comes, and she becomes the same as she was in BFDI, but with a bit more of a cynical and defensive side because of previous seasons, while also being a bit selfish during post-split. I find Leafy okay as I do like her personality, but the amount of forced niceness and contradictions really just kill it for me. Oh boy, where do I start with you? Ice Cube has a lot going for them currently, even more so with her past. She is one of the few characters that has very little unique lines, and it becomes very apparent in BFDIA and BFB. She was fine in BFDI as her quiet but vengeful attitude was fun to watch. Her entire revenge bit is cool, but recently they haven't been doing much with that. Majority of people dislike Ice Cube because of the amount of reused lines she had, and didn't get any new ones until TPOT 5. She's an okay character, but not much other than that. What? What do you want me to say? Okay, fine. He's the most neutral on this list. I suppose the concept is fine, but what can the writers do with that? That's why he's in the middle. Okay, next one. Belle is someone that I find rather interesting. I feel like the only thing people even talk about Belle is regards to her string. Sometimes it's there, and sometimes it isn't. People want to know where it goes, and I suppose that's a little fun thing to wonder about. Belle herself is a somewhat decent character, although her snappy attitude rubs me the wrong way, especially when it was towards Taco. She's gotten a bit funnier in Teapot, but I still kinda see her as forgettable right now. Sorry Tree lovers, I just find them alright. Tree is a fairly reasonable person and often comes up with ideas to help his team win in challenges, which is mostly apparent in Teapot. In BFB, I don't exactly recall him doing much other than being trapped inside Bottle for like 3 episodes. He is decent to watch since they changed around how he acts in Teapot, although him not doing really anything in Teapot brings him down a bit. Also, I've noticed that a number of people only like Tree because of his voice. Really? Only his voice? Come on, think of something else. Not gonna lie, I kinda like Profiley. Profiley seems like a good person I could just have a normal chat with. Granted, we can kind of get by with the voice, but that's fine. Profile also kind of falls under Mary Sue, with difference being that Profile isn't classified as a she. Profile is shown to be very skilled at challenges, although the desire to always feel included is not something I like. I get it, you want to be involved with things you like, but if it gets to a point where you kind of just lie and people don't know who you are, then you've made an enemy with me. I'm willing to let that slide though. Profile is alright. So, Dora. That's quite a fitting name, isn't it? Especially since when she first showed on BFDI, her hair was literally just Dora's hair. Well, the new hairdo is nice. Dora is also a joke character, but unlike David, she's actually helpful and does stuff with her team. Shocker! Sure, yes, there are times where she is rather hateful towards people, such as the viewers and especially David. Even so, she's still a decent character as she did some stuff, unlike a few people. She also became more humble as time went on, especially when she ended up being eliminated. She's very mysterious, but an alright character. Coiny is fairly decent, as he was pretty okay throughout all the seasons. His hatred for Fiery was pretty funny, although I would have liked to know what the actual reason was. I would say his best would be in BFB, with IDFB being a close second. His talk with Pin was really nice and showed that he did care for his friends. In TPOT, he kinda was dimmed down a bit and ended up getting back to personality he had in IDFB, which doesn't really work in a competitive aspect when you look at it. Also, the whole cheating arc thing with Pin as well didn't really help, even though he wasn't exactly part of it. I know there's a good amount of Remote fans out there. Remote is in the same boat as Robotty and Robot Flower, being, well, a robot. Although she uses a TTS voice like TV, and it does fit her character. I have seen Remote be quite charming a number of times, and she's pretty loyal to whatever team she's on to have a better shot to win challenges. Even then, I don't exactly care for Remote, which was made pretty apparent to me when she was eliminated in TPOT 5. Remote to me was just a character that exists, but does have some good sides to her. Well, this might make some people angry. Yes, I know, her attitude in BFB was basically the same as Pencil's, yada yada. Even then, her attitude is probably a lot more tame than you think, and Match was simply just following Pencil as they are both best friends. During BFB, she does go through a lot of emotions and I feel like people overlooked that. She is seen being much more friendlier to people that she hated before, such as Flower and Spongy. While the one scene with Bubble really made people mad at Match, she at least acknowledged what she was doing was wrong when Bubble was calling her out on it. I feel like if she wasn't eliminated after that, she most likely would have had some kind of redemption arc. Even though that will never happen, I still like Match. Bottle is a rather funny character at times. She is seen being rather happy in most cases, but also becomes serious when it's needed. Bottle isn't really placed any higher since I find her only becoming better in Teapot, while in BFB, she wasn't exactly doing that much other than about 2 episodes from what I can remember. I do see her later on rising up in the ranks if Teapot keeps her the way she currently is. Cake is one of the few characters on Just Not that I like. Even so, Cake sadly does not place higher due to his nature when Loser was around. Cake was way too dependent on Loser, even to the point where his entire personality changed when Loser was eliminated and became more aggressive towards people since he had no one to look up to. In Teapot though, they dropped this entirely and Cake mainly went back to his former self. Just without Loser in the equation has started to grow on me. Blocky's more sadistic personality in BFDI was fun to watch, and it was a bit of fresh air to see a character act very different from your typical contestant. Pre-split Blocky was alright, although his more violent attitude was toned down quite a bit, but still on occasion can be seen being a bit violent towards others, like Golf Ball. People say that he's gotten bad in post-flip because he kind of turned into a goody two-shoes. I don't see any problem with that. His friendship that he gained with Woody is nice, and I'm glad to see people who are technically opposites of each other now getting along. Clock is a good person, at least when he isn't obsessing over Winner. Clock is someone that wants to win challenges and help out his team, and it does show. The swing sets, the baskets, and even his eagerness. He's also someone that likes order, which is known when he tells Staby that he can't stay since he's eliminated. During early Teapot, he found out about Winner and was obsessed with them, like how some characters were obsessed with Loser, and this sadly puts him a bit low. His entire phase with that made his team lose challenges and was just pretty annoying. It does seem that now they are both on neutral terms and hopefully it stays that way. I just want to know where that obsession even came from, even if it's just what happened when Loser showed up. Lightning is someone you would call feisty if you first meet him. He loves to zap people, which is mainly in BFB, and likes to take orders from people, which is mainly apparent when he was in Iance. Even so, he often seeks validation like Ice Cube, which isn't a bad thing. Lately in TPOT, he kind of feels like a bit of a downgrade as his feisty behavior isn't all that prominent and appears to be much more clumsy than usual, like with TPOT 1 and 4. I suppose this makes sense since he's in Death Pact again, but man, I do miss that sometimes. I still do like him though. Quite a big gap between Golf Ball and Tennis Ball, huh? Despite being a main culprit for kinda ruining Tennis Ball recently, Golf Ball herself has been pretty much the same throughout all the seasons. She is of course one of the smartest contestants in BFDI and uses this to her advantage to help win in challenges. In Teapot though, her tendency to hold grudges has gotten pretty annoying, especially with Puffball. She also has one against Basketball, but that one is funny since Basketball herself doesn't exactly care how Golf Ball thinks of her. While Golf Ball is a pretty good character, her flaws kind of rule out things that are good about her, especially regarding Tennis Ball. If I was only ranking those who were in BFDI the first season, Fiery would have placed first, no doubt. Even with saying that, Fiery just barely makes it to my top 30, as his arc with Leafy was sort of pointless, but at least it ended on a good note. Fiery is someone that does care about winning challenges, especially during BFDI. His rivalry with Coiny is pretty funny, and is overall just a decent person. I'm not going to go into that whole Leafy arc business, that's not what this video is for. He was still fairly okay in post-split. In fact, I would say he was still pretty much the same as he was in pre-split. Snowball is your typical mean/jock type character. He finds himself more superior than others, especially those without arms. This is shown greatly in the first season, and I can understand why at the start people didn't exactly like him. He was much more toned down in BFB, and this was a pretty good balance. He's a lot more forgiving of those who are armless and is a lot less violent than normal. Even so, he has made a reputation for himself in Teapot, as people find him to be a detriment to some teams. He's now seen being much more nicer towards people, especially with Grassy. He isn't any higher due to his sort of stupid nature in all the seasons, and with him getting toned down in the later seasons. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but sometimes he just feels a bit dead inside. I know for a fact some people still have Woody as their #1 favorite. I'm just gonna say it right now, Woody sucked in BFDI, and I was glad to see that he was eliminated early on, since his whole scaredy cat nature wasn't all that great. He was definitely much better in BFB and was starting to change himself for the better. Woody sadly fell under the term of overrated, especially during post-split when the voting was changed to vote to save. Woody would be in a weird spot where people would say he's overrated, but at the same time say he's overhated. What do I think? Yeah, he was definitely overhated. His entire fear bit wasn't the greatest, and it was also very rewarding to see Woody change later on in BFB. He's changed a lot since the first season, and I'm very glad for that. He's just not any higher because of his first season. He sucked there. Barfbag is pretty decent at what she does. She's nice, caring, and rather smart at times. Also, granted, she can be a bit slow at times. At the same time, she's kind of boring since she doesn't have any sort of conflict with anyone at the moment. You can count Lollipop, sure, but I'm mainly talking about Teapot as that was only in BFB. There hasn't been any real moments of her being mean-spirited. I'm not saying being just a nice person overall is a bad thing, but I feel like Barfbag being involved in some conflict would spice up her character a bit. That's my only real issue with her. This is going to confuse some people. Alright, hear me out here. Yes, Lai was seen as your typical mean character, but she wasn't exactly that mean to begin with? Sure, you can say what she did in BFB 1 was wrong, but she did acknowledge that and hasn't done anything like that since. Another reason I've seen people hating Lai is for apparently doing nothing in challenges, with the biggest one being in BFB 4. Well, what did you expect her to do? She wasn't able to move because of the amount of forks flying around her due to the effects of the fork repellent. She is definitely someone I see as overhated and isn't that bad as people say she is. I like Lai, and she's someone that has a lot of missed potential, especially with her mysterious past and with her first showing up at the BFDI Apposite episode. Shame she went pretty early. Hopefully in Teapot they'll make up for that. How? I don't know. Bubble is also seen as your typical nice character, also being kind-hearted, carefree, and the such. She was pretty decent in BFDI, making as far as placing 3rd. Sad she was an actual contestant in BFDIA, but was a pretty good ally when Freespot was first formed. People started to have a problem with Bubble in BFB, especially after BFB8 and more so into post-split. Why? Well, she was seen as a crybaby. I don't exactly get this argument at all, since she was still clearly hurt from the events of pre-split. I highly doubt you would get over it that easily. Bubble is a pretty fun character, but I also feel like she's pretty misunderstood by a majority of people. She also calls out people that aren't treating her right, like with Match, so she knows right from wrong. She's fine, I just don't really see why she had hate around that time. If the hate is still there, that is. Basketball has a bit of good dynamic with some people, both friends and rivals. Her dynamic with Robot Flower is pretty good since it looks like she does care about her, especially in TPOT 2. She was a good ally to Team Bleh and was even used to help win certain challenges multiple times. Her little rivalry with Golf Ball is also pretty funny. My only problem with Basketball, however, is the entire bit with 8th Ball. She was very quick to just follow 8 Ball's orders when everyone was tired of Golf Ball, and I didn't really like that entire bit. Other than that, she's pretty good. Gady has always been a character that sparked interest to me. From how she first appeared in BFB 1, to talking with Book in BFB 13, to the talk she had with 2 in TPOT 2. This alone shows that Gady is a voice of reason. While sometimes this does also cause people to be criticized, she will do the same to herself and isn't scared to admit her mistakes as she points out others. Despite this, she has been shown to be a bit cowardly when it's about her, like when she was scared that she would be up for elimination in BFB 15 and in TPOT 1. Even so, her sort of voice of reason has kind of disappeared after TPOT 2 and she kind of just exists now. She's not a bad character, so maybe she'll be better later on. When I first saw Ruby as a debut character in BFDI, I had a feeling I was going to like her from the start. Come BFDIA, and she was exactly that, a character that I like. She's very fun and curious, especially towards around her friends such as Bubble and Match. I am a fan of her personality as she's one of the few that really fits her character, in a number of ways that would take too long for me to explain. She was alright in IDFB despite giving the sign that she was going to be really dumb for that season from this one death. She was a lot better in post-split as she was very helpful in the challenges she took part in also. Too bad she got eliminated though, I feel like she probably would have made it a bit more far. She's a great character though. Now I think this might shock a good amount of people. While yes, Flower was really insufferable during BFDI, I think the amount of development she got in BFB was honestly pretty good. Far from perfect of course, but still alright. While pre-split did have her development done right, as in being a lot less egocentric and less violent, she still had that in post-split, but some of the things she did kinda made that go backwards, where she just kicks people for whatever reason. The only argument I can find for hating Flower is that J&J were possibly biased for her to win in BFB, which I'm not going to take in as such. I still believe that her redemption arc was good. She's fine, even with her flaws. Nita was a fairly good character. She's always supportive to her friends, helps in challenges, and is really competitive. That's if you don't call her by needy. She is a pretty strong character overall and can really handle herself on her own. She has a pretty good dynamic with people and is friendly. She's fine. Eggy is an interesting case for me, as a lot of people tend to say that Eggy does nothing or is bland. Are we watching the same show? Eggy has done quite a bit and is even important in some aspects, especially in TPOT. While yes, she didn't exactly do much in BFB other than be a loser follower, she has been seen being rather nice to Teardrop, which is a bit of foreshadowing for TPOT. At least in TPOT, she has improved immensely regarding her character. She's a lot more vocal towards characters and is somewhat of a team leader as well, even though she wasn't able to do much with that. TPOT 2 has the biggest one, being that Eggy revives Teardrop without anyone noticing except the winner. Later on, Eggy is much more open with working as a team, being more apparent in TPOTs 4 and 5. She has improved as a character. Also, before you comment, oh, did Apoy make you have Eggy be this high? No, he didn't have any part of this. I have my own opinions, Apoy has his. Announcer is a host that I like. While the announcer is a robot, he still has good nature and intentions towards his contestants when he was a host in BFDI, and briefly appearing at the end of post-split. BFB 29 is where we see his true colors, and I love it. He's shown to be really greedy regarding the show, and has little remorse for what he has caused, as the show's budget gets worse and worse. His entire plan was to steal the show back, which explains the amount of times he randomly appears in the background. This paints him as one of the most darkest and influential characters in the series, as he seemingly has the power to almost destroy the series at any time he wants. He's such a great character. I'll just say this right now, Eraser in BFDI sucked. He was pretty boring, he wasn't exactly doing much other than talking to like one person, which was Pen, and doesn't ever sound excited about any challenges. This changes in BFB and I love his character now. He went from doing basically nothing to being a lot more helpful in challenges and also being more enthusiastic, especially around Pen, which they both work well together along with Blocky. He improves a lot more in TPOT and he is now more competitive, albeit in the violent aspect, but that works out. Even more so with his little rivalry that he has with Teardrop. I really enjoy that. He has really improved. Yeah, sorry to say, but while Teardrop is a pretty good character, she isn't a top 10 for me. Teardrop is what you would call a mute character, someone who doesn't speak at all or chooses not to. She acts enthusiastic and impulsive at times. She is very competitive and is also loyal to her friends. I like the friendship she had with Gelatin and the dynamic with Eggy, and they kind of expanded about that in Teapot. Oh yeah, speaking of Teapot, while I won't talk about how I feel about her joining Teapot, I'll at least say that I'm glad she did. While being alone, she is able to be independent and is fine with doing things by herself. While I'm not really a fan of her having plot armor, she's still a pretty entertaining character and has good dynamics with the others. Even though we've only seen 2 for a total of 6 episodes, with more on the way soon, they have already shown to be a great host and amazing character overall. 2 is by far the most friendly out of all the other hosts, but this is really apparent given 2's personality. 2 is a very casual person compared to say 4 and doesn't exactly mind what the contestants do, so long as they listen to what needs to be done. 2 cares about the contestants also, but at the same time, they are a bit too passive, which becomes apparent in Teapot 4 when the entire dang forest burns down and just straight up leaves Deathpact again there. I can't wait to find out what else they do with 2, or whatever 2 is hiding under that positive persona they have. I've always liked Taco, even with how she acted in Post-Split, which I'll get into in a minute here. I like Taco's character and I'm not afraid to say that. Her first appearance in BFB 1 is a good one, as it shows she cares about the challenges and will do whatever it takes to win. This becomes a problem later on, especially past BFB 3. She ends up not doing most of the challenges due to her team, Team Bleh, not accepting her as she was trapped in a jawbreak for 2 whole episodes, thinking she was gone when she was just stuck. While the makeup happens later on, let's talk about Post-Split. During Post-Split, she turns more into what people call a Karen, always complaining and never shutting up. Again, are we watching the same show? Her arc with Blocky was great, as it finally made him stop being mean to Woody and becoming friends. I didn't see her be a Karen at all. What, is wanting someone to change for the better make you a Karen all of a sudden? I never found her to be that complainy either, so I don't know where all this came from. She's amazing, case in point. First up in the top 10, we have Balloony. I really do like Balloony, and it's such a shame that he got out really early on in Post-Split. Personally, I think he was robbed. I really adore Balloony's personality and his friendship with Cloudy, which is probably one of the best parts about him and his character. And I guess with Rocky. Even on his own, he's fairly good. He's nice to everyone, does well in challenges, and helps whenever he can, even when he's deflated. He's done really well in BFB. I'm just sad he got out early. Am I the only one that thinks Donut is severely underrated? I feel like the majority of hate that Donut gets is when he was in BFDIA. He just started off as a really rude character and that got him out first. He improved greatly in BFB as his personality changed for the better, kinda like Flowers. He was a lot more nicer and considerate to people, especially towards his team. When he was host for a few episodes, he was a pretty good host, even though there are times where he was a bit biased and mocked others for losing. Loser is fine, he deserved it. He was still a better host than 4NX. Come Teapot, he's still pretty much the same, and that's great. Pillow in BFB was really inconsistent with how her personality was. She's seen sometimes being kind of dumb, being condescending, and also sometimes being kind. It didn't really seem like they knew what to do with her. That changed in Teapot, and oh boy, I am all for it. Pillow in Teapot has a more sadistic personality, and I'm a fan of it, because they're consistent with it. She's also a lot more funny this way, with some examples being putting price tag in acid and throwing the contestants off the building in Teapot 5. She doesn't care and I love it. She really moved up the ranks because of this. Just to get this out of the way, yes, I know that the Taco book arcs seem really stupid to some people and they still haven't forgiven her despite her change in Teapot. Even so, I still love Book. At least when she wasn't talking about Taco, Book is shown to be caring towards everyone and even being helpful in challenges like BFB 3, even though she keeps saying she'll win Dream Island. Yeah, how's that going for you? Anyway, despite her issues in BFB, she at least comes to terms with Taco knowing that what she was doing is wrong, then moves to Teapot. In Teapot, she really does try and change for the better as she is more willing to help her team and is a lot less arrogant and pushy. Later on, I hope she still improves, as I am a fan of her now. Even though Winner is a new debut character, they are by far my most favorite debuter out of everyone. Winner is an insanely good character. They are helpful, friendly, and very social, which you don't really see a lot of characters do as much other than their own friend groups. Winner is also really good at challenges, making them a competitive person. They are just really great to see and sometimes bring a smile to my face whenever they're on screen. I just kinda wish they went more with the Winner and Clock arc because it seems like they sort of forgot that or just didn't want to go anywhere with it. I feel like this arc would bring out more about Winner, especially with their past about Loser. Winner is lovely. Here's to more of them. I've been a fan of Fry since he first showed up in BFDIA. He was a bit different from the other contestants at the time. While being serious, he's also one of the few that takes the competition very seriously. And I mean seriously. He doesn't like those who are lazy and wants them to help. He's an amazing character, and I don't exactly get why people find him boring. He's far from it. BFB and Teapot show a whole new side towards him, willing to call out those for doing nothing while he is hardworking for his team. His new friendship with Puffball has also been really amazing. I'm just a huge fan of his character, nothing else. One thing, he stopped eating his fries in BFB. I wonder why. Lollipop I find the most consistent out of everyone here, and I feel like that's saying something with a cast of over 60 characters. From when she had a major role in BFB 1, I'm not counting BFDIA, she was already seen as being a mean character, but this time around, something was different. She was mean, but she was good at it. Lollipop wasn't a typical mean character like with Donut or Flower. Lollipop was something different. She had a more sassy side to her meanness, and it fit really well to her character, and I love it. The banter with Barfbag was funny, the nicknames are on the nose but pretty funny as well. She became a lot more kinder and compassionate later on, especially towards Taco, Gelatin, and Teardrop, while still keeping her sassy personality. Let's not forget what she did in BFB 20 though. Just like Fries, I've always liked Gelatin since he first showed up in BFDIA. His laid-back but impulsive personality works greatly for him. He stays pretty much the same throughout all of BFB, pretty much like Lollipop, although in post-play he does act a bit more childish in nature, but that's still good in my eyes. Even so, he's still a great ally in challenges, except for the times he threw his teammates off of high places and kept wanting to blow up Bommy. I feel like his biggest moment was in BFB 30. I don't want to spoil it despite probably almost everyone watching this video knows what happened, but that was probably one of his best moments overall. I don't care what other people say. I love Gelatin. He's just a silly person. I feel like these next two are pretty obvious. Too bad! Puffball is an amazing character. Without counting what she did in BFDIA 5e yet, she was a very unique character at the time, being the only contestant that can fly as well as change size. She was an amazing ally for whatever team she was on, and it was just cool to see. Now, about BFDIA 5e, a lot of people still hate Puffball for this, despite it being 10 years ago. I feel like people would let the prize get to their head as well, so what's the point? Although, Puffball in BFB kinda sucked. She hardly had much screen time during pre-split, and she seemed to have just lost the ability to change size. She also wasn't that helpful in some challenges and sort of just floated around. In Teapot, she got a massive glow up, especially past Teapot 3. She's a lot more crazy and wanting to mess up people's chances of winning, and her friendship with Fries is still really amazing. I really don't understand why people still have a grudge towards her from BFDIA 5e. Let go of it already. Yeah, this shouldn't be surprising to most people on who's number 1. Now, I know people are going to ask, why do you like Fanny so much? She does nothing but hate on things. That's where you are wrong, because there's a lot more to her than just that. She is spiteful, yes, but she isn't mean, evil, or arrogant. In fact, She's one of the more honest characters on the show, probably the most out of everyone. This is apparent in BFB1, and especially so when Fanny calls out Loser for lying about knowing the toy when it was just made. Same thing with 4 when he kept changing the prize just to piece people back from not going to 2's show. She isn't afraid to call out others on their BS, it does not matter who you are. She really values honesty, especially towards Bubble when she told her about Match. In Teapot, she kinda went back to the whole hating everything thing, but she is still true to nature and I love her for that. This is why Fanny is my #1 favorite character out of everyone on this list. She is just an amazing character to me. There you have it, that's my tier list. Please note, this tier list is only updated towards Teapot 5. It does not take into account for Teapot 6. I most likely won't make an updated video when Teapot finishes. I'll most likely just make a community post or whatever. Who knows? Maybe my favorite character won't be Fanny by then. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be seeing you soon. Bye!
I be popping sparkles and champagne. VIP my fashion royalty looking sexy, you know that be